Islam 101.
Bismillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillahi amma ba'. Welcome once again to a new episode of Islam 101. And I'm your host, Abu Usamah Althahabi. We have before us today, in today's episode, inshallah, another very important hadith that was narrated to us by that tremendous companion who was from one of the youngsters, from amongst the young companions who Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to pay particular attention to. And that was the long and far-sightedness of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as it relates to him building a nation of people who are going to be responsible for carrying the message of Al-Islam throughout the four corners of the universe. He used to take close attention and pay close concern to those youngsters or the shabab from the Muslims who he saw that they were given intellect by Allah Azza wa Jal. People like Abdullah ibn Abbas and Usamah ibn Zayd and Jabir ibn Abdullah. From them, may Allah be pleased with all of them, is the companion Abdullah ibn Umar. May Allah be pleased with him as well as his father. In this particular hadith that's been collected by Al-Imam al-Bukhari as well as Al-Imam Muslim. And anytime a Muslim hears that a hadith has been agreed upon by these two imams, that hadith is called in Al-Islam muttafaqun alayh. It has been agreed upon by the two sheikhs, Al-Bukhari and Muslim. So if you ever hear the shaykhan narrated this, the shaykhan here is not Abu Bakr and Umar. The shaykhan here, the two sheikhs, is not Munkar and Nakir. The shaykhan here is Al-Imam al-Bukhari and Muslim. And for those English-speaking Muslims, there is a book that has been translated from Arabic into English that I would advise you to get. It is the book that is called Al-Lu'lu wal-Marjan, فيما اتفق عليه الشيخان, the pearls and the oysters, the hadith that the two illustrious sheikhs agreed upon, Bukhari and Muslim. And this book contains all of the hadith that Bukhari and Muslim agreed upon. So if you have that book in your home, you can read that book and you don't have any doubt that every single hadith in that book is authentic. Because whenever a Muslim hears or reads or sees that the hadith is muttafaqun alayh, it's agreed upon by Bukhari and Muslim, then it is an authentic hadith. Today's hadith is such a hadith. Abdullah ibn Umar, may Allah be pleased with him and his father, he said that the Messenger of Allah told us sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Buni al-Islamu ala khams. Al-Islam has been built upon 5 pillars. He went on to explain those 5 pillars. Al-Islam has been built upon the shahada, the statement of a person saying, La ilaha illallah Muhammadan Rasulullah. La ilaha illallah, there is no God worthy of worship except Allah. And Muhammad is his messenger. La ilaha illallah, no other God deserves our ibadah, our worship, except Allah. Muhammad Rasulullah means there is no human being, no matter who he is, the imam or the leader of a masjid, the imam or the leader of a particular madhab or Islamic ideology, there is no human being who deserves unconditional obedience except Muhammad ibn Abdullah, the Prophet and Messenger of Al-Islam. The second pillar is to establish the salah 5 times a day. And the third pillar is that you give the zakat or the pordo. The fourth pillar is that you fast in the month of Ramadan, the blessed month of Ramadan, which is the month of the Quran. It is the month in which Allah revealed the Quran. It is the month that we find the night that is known as Laylatul Qadr taking place in this particular night, the night of power, which is better than 1,000 months. And finally, for a person to make Hajj or pilgrimage to Mecca. These are the 5 pillars of Al-Islam, and this is the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that has been narrated by Abdullah ibn Umar. As it relates to the first pillar, the Shahada, I would like to make it clear, inshallah, that the most important principle in the religion of Al-Islam is that Al-Islam is a religion of monotheism. It is the religion in which we worship only one God. That God has certain characteristics, certain names and attributes, things that he does, things that he doesn't do, things that are beyond our perception and ability to conceive, things that we believe. That is the single most important principle in Al-Islam. If a person's concept of who Allah is or who Allah isn't, then what's going to happen? If their concept isn't correct, whatever comes after that from the other pillars is also going to be corrupt and it's going to be problematic. So the Muslim who doesn't believe in Allah correctly, if he wants to pray, but he believes that a saint in the grave can give him the arzaq, he can bestow upon him his sustenance, then there's going to be a problem with that man's prayer. I don't care how sincere he stands before Allah to pray, if he believes that the dead man in the grave can hurt or can help him, then there's going to be a problem. If he believes that if he puts a tamima or a talisman around his arm or around his neck to protect him from the evil eye or to protect him from magic, and he relies and depends upon that tamima instead of depending upon Allah, then there are going to be some problems in his fast. There are going to be problems in the way he makes hajj. So we have to become a group of people who are muwahhidun, people of a tawheed. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he gave dawah, he called the people to al-Islam 13 years in Mecca. 13 years. And all he said to the people over and over and over again was, Ya qawmi qulu la ilaha illallah tuflihu. Oh my people, say la ilaha illallah and you'll be successful. He did not encourage them to pray. He did not tell them to pay zakat. He did not tell them to do anything other than to understand and to conceive correctly la ilaha illallah for 13 years. And then when he made the hijrah, or he migrated to Medina, and he set up the Islamic State in Medina, that's when the other aspects of legislation were introduced by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that goes to show the importance of at-tawheed. He said in an authentic hadith that is critical. Man qala la ilaha illallah nafa'athu yawma min dahrihi. Whoever says la ilaha illallah and he believes it and he works by it, it's going to benefit him one day. If the person dies saying la ilaha illallah and knowing it and understanding it, and he dies falling into the major sins, there's something he's not doing from al-Islam, something that he is doing that's a major sin, but he really understood and he believed in la ilaha illallah, he will come out of the hellfire eventually. As a matter of fact, he will be under the mashi'ah of Allah. If Allah wants, Allah will punish him, and if Allah wants, Allah will forgive him, and he may not even go to the hellfire. So that goes to show the importance of la ilaha illallah. Abu Hurairah radiyallahu anhu came and he asked Rasulullah one day, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Ya Rasulullah, man as'adun nasi bi shafa'atik yawm al-qiyamah. Ya Rasulullah, who will be the happiest, most successful person from the Muslims who will have a right to your intercession yawm al-qiyamah, on the last day? Who will be the one who will have this honored position? The Prophet told him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, man qala la ilaha illallah khalisan min qalbihi. The one who said la ilaha illallah with sincerity. So it's really important, Akhi Muhammad, Ilman, Sarda, my friend and my guest, Nick, it's important, my respected viewers, that we understand la ilaha illallah as a statement is not enough. Yawm al-Qiyamah, the man will come and he will say, oh, let me go back to the earth so that I can do more righteous deeds. Allah said, he's just saying a word. It doesn't mean anything. He doesn't really mean that. So just to say la ilaha illallah, even though it's beneficial, we have to understand la ilaha illallah, it has some conditions and it has some keys that we have to work by. La ilaha illallah is a key to paradise. But like every key, it has some teeth. If you just put a key in the knob without the teeth, it's not going to open the door. And we're going to deal with that, inshallah, the conditions of La ilaha illallah at another time. La ilaha illallah, Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. Muhammad is the one who, what he says, you have to embrace it and take it unconditionally. That is the first shahada in al-Islam. That we have to follow the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam without asking how, when, and why. Whether you understand it or you don't understand it. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam is the example. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَا مِن رَسُولٍ إِلَّا لِيُطَاعَ بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ. We have not sent any messenger except that the people will obey him unconditionally without asking any questions. That's the meaning of La ilaha illallah. And we have some episodes that are coming, inshallah, that are going to deal with the importance of al-ittiba', following Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and also the aqsam of at-tawheed, the different categories and levels of at-tawheed. Now we go to the next issue, the issue of as-salat. As-salat, brothers, is the most important rukn from the arkan of al-Islam, al-amaliyah. It is a pillar of action. La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah is what you believe. It's in your mind, in your heart. There are no actions connected to it. As for salat, it is the first pillar of actions and the most important pillar of action. The Prophet told us, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, al-ahdu alladhi baynana wa baynahum as-salatu. Man tarakaha faqad kafara. The difference between us and non-Muslims is a salah. Whoever leaves it, he is not a Muslim. Abu Huraira, may Allah be pleased with him, said that the companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not see the abandonment or the tark of any action as being kufr other than the salah. The companions were of the opinion that if a man left off the prayer, he was a kafir. And look how many Muslims have abandoned the salah today. Allah mentioned in the Quran a group of people in which he praised them. And then after praising them, he mentioned the group of people who came after them. And he said, Tabarak wa ta'ala, فَخَلَفَ مِن بَعْدِهِمْ خَلْفٌ أَضَاعُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَاتَّبَعُوا الشَّهَوَاتِ فَسَوْفَ يَلْقَوْنَ غَيًّا. After mentioning those good people, he said, and then there came after them a group of people who they lost the prayer, they abandoned it, they lost it, and they followed their desires. Verily, those people are going to enter into the hellfire. We're going to stop here as it relates to the explanation of this particular hadith, and we'll continue, inshallah, after the break. And we want to hear from what some of our respected panel members will have to say concerning what has already preceded.
Islam 101.
Reviewing the second rule of al-mim as-sakinah. That is the letter mim. So if the first mim is non-vowel or sakinah, followed by a voweled mim. So I will merge the first in the letter and I will pronounce them as one. وَآمَنَهُمْ مِنْ. And we spoke abundantly on the virtues of seeking refuge with Allah from the outcast Satan. Especially for the first reciter, he's got to recite it out loud.
وَالسَّمَاءِ ذَاتِ الْبُرُوجِ.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
فإذا جاءت الصاخة.
وَإِذَا النُّفُوسُ زُوِّجَتْ.
Make sure it's dhamma. وَإِذَا النُّفُوسُ. Thank you for joining us.
Islam 101.
Welcome back to Islam 101, where we've been discussing the hadith of Abdullah bin Umar that explains to us in clear and perfect terms the 5 pillars of Islam. As it relates to the first pillar, the shahadatain, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, we've explained that. And now we've began to explain the issue of as-salat and the importance of the salat. If anyone is in any doubt concerning the importance of the salat, he should take into consideration the fact that the Prophet told us, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the very first thing that the slave will be asked about Yawm al-Qiyamah is his prayer. On the last day, when he was raised before Allah, he's going to be asked about his prayer. If his prayer was good, he did it on time, the way it was supposed to be done, with khushu', fear in Allah, concentration, it's going to have an impact upon all of his other deeds and actions. If his prayer was not good, he didn't make it, he made it according to the way he wanted to make it, then all of his deeds are going to suffer as a result of that. So the most important pillar of actions is the pillar of as-salat. No one leaves it except that his Islam is in question. Do you brothers have any questions concerning the first two pillars that we mentioned? Nick?
Well, I noticed that Muslims are praying all together. They are getting in groups and praying shoulder to shoulder. And why is it so? Can't they pray separately, one here, second here?
Yes, concerning the observation of Nick living in a Muslim country, he's making a distinction between the salat of al-jama'ah, the salat in which the Muslims make in a group. The 5 prayers that we do during the course of the day should be made in the jama'ah if the person has the ability to do so. He has the qudra, and the ability to do it is determined by the religion and not by his desires. So that is the community prayer where people are required to come together. Today, in the prayer of Al-Fajr, I may stand between Muhammad and I'll stand between him. And then for the next prayer, Dhuhr, I'll stand between this brother and then another brother. And the next day, the next prayer, I'll stand between 2 other people. And we spend our time doing that through the course of the week or the month or the year. During that time, I get to know my brother. I get to know him. He gets to know me. During that time, we become people who are disciplined and we know how to tolerate each other. Islam is a religion of being social and socializing with other people. Even in an example of this particular worship or ibadah, we follow behind that imam, and it's all examples and signs of being disciplined and having the ability to follow the one who is leading us. Also, it serves community purposes as well. When he goes missing, when I don't see him after a week or so, I begin to ask, where is Fulan and where is Fulan? As the Prophet used to do, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He used to have the tafaqqud of his ashab. If he didn't see someone after a long period of time, he would begin to ask, where is so-and-so and where is this person and that person? So it has a lot of social value to it. The prayer that the man makes in the jama'ah, in the group, is 27 times better than him making the prayer by himself. 27 times better. But that doesn't mean that he doesn't have the ability or the opportunity to pray by himself. Every prayer is better to pray individually except the obligatory prayer. A man should pray in his home so that his children can see him and his wife can see him. He should pray and lead them in the prayer in the home where he's praying his sunnah and the nawafil, those prayers that are not an obligation. So he does pray individually, but there's a community responsibility, and Islam is a religion of community. As a matter of fact, the lone sheep gets devoured by the wolf. When the person is by himself, then the shaitan, the devil, Satan, comes to him and he finds him an easy prey. So that's one of the benefits. Any more questions concerning the salah or the shahadatain? Now we move on to the zakat. As it relates to the zakat, in many ayahs of the Quran and many ahadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so many verses have put together the salat and the zakat. They go hand in hand. And the zakat is the third most important pillar. More important than fasting, more important than hajj. A person who is fasting in the month of Ramadan, but he's not praying, wallahi, he doesn't have a fast. How can you fast and go to sleep all day and you don't pray? That's not the correct fast. Salat is more important than fasting, and the zakat is more important in terms of it being a pillar than the zakat. So these two verses, these two pillars are put together in so many ayahs of the Quran. Like Allah Ta'ala said in the Quran, فَإِن تَابُوا وَأَقَامُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ فَإِخْوَانُكُمْ فِي الدِّينِ. If they make tawbah and they establish the salat and they give the zakat, he mentioned them together, then they are your brothers. الَّذِينَ يُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةَ وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ. Those people who they establish the salat, and from what we provided them with, we gave them money, they spend from that money. So a zakat and the salat, they go together. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam, he said in an authentic hadith, I've been sent to wage war and to call the people to worship La ilaha illallah and to accept me as the messenger of Allah and to establish the zakat, to establish the salat and to give the zakat. If they do that, then they will be safe from me. He will continue to give dawah and to wage war against those people who try to extinguish the light of al-Islam until they establish the salat and the zakat. And the zakat is, again, a community issue. It is 2.5% that's taken out of the money of a given person. It could be a man, it could be a woman, it can even be a child. If they have enough money that has been in their possession for a whole year, for a whole Muslim lunar calendar, they have enough money, they should take 2.5% of that and give it to the poor people. Today, as you all know, the people are singing songs for the poor people in Africa. Many of the artists are coming together, the singers and musicians are coming together in London, in Germany, all over the world. They're going to sing some songs to raise money for the impoverished African continent. In al-Islam, if the Muslims were given the zakat and practicing this pillar of al-Islam, we would empower ourselves to almost eradicate. We will be able to get rid of and do away with poverty as it relates not only to the Muslim world, but even to the other people of the world who are suffering from poverty. People who are dying from starvation. So, zakat is a religious issue that would do away with that. Our religion itself, if we looked at the religion of Islam and the legislation of al-Islam, we will come to appreciate the wisdom behind such an issue. After that, we come to the issue of siyam or fasting in the month of Ramadan. All of the arkan of al-Islam, the ones that entail actions, the person does them when he has the ability to do it. If he has the ability to pray standing up, he should do so. But if he doesn't have the ability, then he doesn't have to do it, standing up. As it relates to the zakat, he gives the zakat if he has the money. But if he doesn't have the money, then he doesn't have to do it. He doesn't have to do it. Similarly, the fast of Ramadan is the same way. It is the salat which is the only pillar that you have to do it all the time. Whether you're sick, whether you're sleeping, whether you're traveling, you always have to do that prayer and make up that prayer. If you are sick, you pray sitting down, you pray lying down. But as it relates to the zakat, as it relates to fasting, the person only has to fast if he has the ability to do it. If the woman is pregnant and she's having a baby, or she delivered the baby, or she's in a situation where she can't fast, then she doesn't have to fast in the month of Ramadan. That is the obligatory fasting of the Muslims in the month of Ramadan. We abstain from eating, drinking, and having physical sexual relationships with our wives from the time that the sun comes up to the time that the sun comes down or sets. And during this time, it is not a time of going to sleep and taking it easy. It's a time of praying, a time of reading the Quran, a time of doing good deeds, giving your zakat during the month or at the end of the month. It is the time of, in al-Islam, historically, when the most important war was waged, the war of Badr, which we're going to talk about, inshallah, in the future. So it's not, as the Muslims understand today, a time of sleeping and taking it easy and not doing anything during the course of the day. It is the time of ijtihad, making efforts. That's the fast in Ramadan. And then finally we have the Hajj to the Baytullah al-Atiq, the Masjid al-Haram. The very first masjid that was built for the worship of Allah in the earth was and is the Masjid al-Haram in Mecca. Ibrahim or Abraham was a prophet who went there. Moses went to Mecca. Jesus is going to come back, and he also went to Mecca. When he comes back, as we believe as Muslims, he's going to make Umrah, Hajj in Mecca. It is a place where the prophets of the past used to go. There's a place in Mecca that is called Dhul Hulayfa, that is close to Medina, on the way to Mecca. Rasulullah told his companion sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Sallu fi hadha al-wadi al-mubarak, fa inna sab'ina min al-anbiya sallu fi." He told them, pray in this blessed valley, for verily 70 prophets from the anbiya, from the prophets, they prayed in that place. So the prophets and the messengers themselves, they used to go to Mecca and they used to perform Hajj. Was I there? Wallahi, I wasn't there, nor were you guys there. No one was there when that happened, but that's part of what we believe. If a person is going to be a mu'min, he has to believe in all of the prophets and the messengers, and in part of believing in the prophets and the messengers is that's what Rasulullah told us about them, sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam. So when we go to Mecca, we put on the ihram, and that is the clothing that is well known, where you have the white upper portion and the white lower portion, and everyone wears the same clothes, and we stand before Allah as servants. I don't say equal, because this man may have more taqwa, more fear of Allah than the next man. That man may have more taqwa than the next man. So we don't say we stand before Allah as equals, but we stand before Allah with the same dress, and there are no distinctions between the white person or the black person or the Arab or the non-Arab. Another example of the social aspect of Islam. Our religion is a religion of being social and socializing with each other and taking care of the community welfare. Those are the 5 pillars of Islam that the religion is built upon. Any one of these pillars is missing or is not being practiced correctly, then a person's Islam is going to be comparable to how bad he is missing out on practicing that particular rukn or pillar. So I want to ask you guys a question concerning the 5 pillars of Islam. Does anyone know all 5 of them very quickly to close out the segment? Does anyone know all 5 of them? What about you, Nick?
Well, difficult to remember the time.
Well, we'll leave it for another time, because now, unfortunately, and I'm sad to say, the time has come for us to once again bid you farewell. From here at Islam 101, we once again thank Allah for the opportunity to bring forward to you these issues and this information, and we ask that Allah accepts it from us and He establishes all of our feet and our hearts firmly upon the kalima of tawheed, the word of la ilaha illallah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Islam. Islam 101. Islam.